Hey there, fourth grade. This is Mr. Campbell. We're going to be working today on lesson 3.4. We skipped the first page today. We're just going to jump in right here on page 94. So if you don't have that book open just yet, go ahead, get it open right now. Grab a pencil so you can follow along on page 94. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to use an area model and partial products to multiply. Now, what's super important is for us to continue working on our multiplication facts. Those are going to be super, super helpful as we continue to work on larger numbers that we're multiplying together. So what's really invaluable for you is to make sure, if you're not solid on those yet, make sure you've got a number chart, a multiplication chart, or that you're just practicing, because again, that's going to help us out a lot. Let's go ahead and take a look at box A here. It says, a garden is in the shape of a rectangle. It is 8 feet wide and 25 feet long. What is the area of the garden? Now down here it says a numerical expression contains numbers and at least one operation. Remember, operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So that means that 8 times 25 is a numerical expression because we've got that number right there, and we've got two numbers with one operation. Now over here it says area model. We can use a rectangular area model to show multiplication. The product of 8 times 25 is the area of the rectangle. Area just means the inside of our shape. All right. So here they've drawn a picture of it, right? So it's 8 feet wide and it's 25 feet long. All right. So the way that we're going to use area model is we're going to break apart our larger number into two separate parts so that way we can multiply those instead of having it be much larger numbers. So let's take a look at box C. Box C says the distributive property tells us that multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each part of the sum by that number and then adding the partial product. So this is partial products. What that means is our 25 right here that we're working with, all right? I can take that 25 and break it into 20 and 5. I can multiply each of those by the 8 and then add them together. And that was what we were practicing before when we did partial products. So again, if we took a look at the area that they've got up here, instead of us trying to figure out the whole thing, what we're going to do is we're going to break it into 20 and 5. And we're going to say what's 8 times 20, then what's 8 times 5, and then add all of that together. The reason I wanted to show you that is because it can get a little bit messy, like when we take a look down here, all right? The reason it can get messy is because all of these numbers start to come in together. And so what we've got to do is we've got to start to sort through these. So they're trying to use the color red and the color blue just to help us visualize and see what we're working on. So we've got 8 times 20. And this is a great number because it ends in 0. And our powers of 10 tell us, let's worry about these other numbers. And then we can put the 0 on the end to change the place value. So 8 times 2 is 16. And then that 0 goes on the end to make it 160. Then we can do 8 times 5. That's going to be the smaller box over here. 8 times 5. And 8 times 5 is 40. All right? Now, I don't have to do any extra moving of place values because 40 is that number. So now, if I bring all of those together, I've got 160 plus 40 is going to give me 200. All right? That is how our area model can work. Now, instead of writing all of that out, we're going to show you what that would look like using just our traditional numbers right here. So we've got our 8 times 5, because that's in our ones place first. So 8 times 5 is going to be that 40. And then we've got 8 times 2 is going to give me that 16, but it's in the tens place, which is why we need that 0 right there. And so 8 times 2 tens is 160. When we add all of that together, it's 200. All right. So again, just like over here, we can add those together to get to our 200. We can break it down just using the numbers as well. So here we are on page 95. Now, if you're not there, please turn with me right now because we're going to go through another example of what this is going to look like. So we've got 5 times 123. All right. And so for that, we've got our 5 over here, and we broke our 123 into 100, 20, and 3, all right? So instead of it being a large number, we broke it into 3 parts. Now, it doesn't change the fact that we're multiplying it by all these different parts. All right. We are still going to follow through with the same steps that we did before. It just means that when we get to our 100, we're going to have more than one zero to be using at that time. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our ones place. So I had 123. So 3 times 5, all right, 3 times 5 is going to be 15. So that's where that 15 came from. Next is 2 times 5, because it's 20 times 5. So 2 times 5 is 10, right? And then we add that extra 0 to the end, so it's 100. And then our last one is 5 times 100. And again, if I ignore the zeros and just say, what's 5 times 1? 5 times 1 is 5. And then I need those 2 zeros, so it's 500. Add them all together, and we get 615. This is just a way for you to organize the way that you can solve different things. All right. So we're going to go ahead and check out 2 different things that are a little bit different than what you were just working on. But go ahead and slide down to number 1 in our guided practice. And again, we're on page 95. All right. On page 95, we're at number 1. It says, what numerical expression is shown by the area model below? What they're asking for is what is actually the multiplication problem that's being shown. Well, before we had like a big number and we broke it into smaller place values. So what that means I need to do is I need to add the numbers on top back together and multiply it by the side over here. So what's 200 plus 60 plus 5? Well, that's 265. And then we have that 7 over here. So it's 265 times 7. All right. So let's go ahead and actually solve this problem. This is all they were asking for, but now we're going to go ahead and take it that next step and solve it. So I've got some extra scrap paper over here for me to be working as I go. So if I take a look here, I've got 7 times 5. All right. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my problem again. So 265, and we're timesing that by 7. And so what the first thing I want to do is I want to say, well, it's 7 times 5, right? 7 times 5. Now, if you know that, 7 times 5 equals 35. And I do try to keep all of my place values in line. Make sure you're writing this down. This is the way that you're going to practice this so that in just a moment, you can start solving these on your own. Next up, I still have my 7, but this time I'm going to do 7 times 60, right? 7 times 60. And if I just start here with my numbers that are not the zeros, 7 times 6. Well, 7 times 6 is 42, but I need to put a 0 in my ones place. So I've got 0, and now I need 42. All right. And now my last part is 7 times 200. 7 times 200. And when I do that, I look and go, again, take away my zeros. What's 7 times 2? Well, 7 times 2 is 14, but I need to start with 0, 0, 14. Now I can add all of this together, and 0 plus 5 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 4 is 8, and 0 plus 1 is going to be 1. So my answer is 1,855. All we did was use this area model right here to do our partial products to just keep our thoughts organized. All right, let's check out our next one. It says for number 2, use area model and partial products to multiply. All right, so just like we just did, we're going to do the same thing. Now, I'm going to ask you to pause your video and try number 2 on your own. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab my extra paper right here because I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. So 560 times 7. For some reason, they really like that 7, right? I'm going to multiply by each of the parts on top. No, there's a 0 in my ones place, so I don't need to really worry about that. So I'm going to start in my tens place and then multiply my hundreds place. But go ahead, pause your video, and then I'll walk you through this problem. All right, I hope you paused the video and tried this one out on your own. If not, do so now. But we're going to go ahead and start off with the first thing I've got is 7 times 60. So 7 times 60. And when I do this, I cover up that 0. I say 7 times 6 is 42, but I can't forget that 0. So the 0, and then my 42. Next is 7 times 500. So 7 times 500. 7 times 5 is 35, but I can't forget these two zeros, right? 0, 0, 35. The last step is to add all this together, and 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 5 is 9. And 0 plus 3 is 3. So my answer is 3,920. All right? Well, there we go. That is how we solve these problems. You're going to go ahead and practice on these next 4 problems right here. Number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. You're going to go ahead, try those problems out, check your work with your teacher, and see how you're working on this area model. All right. Well, thanks so much for working so hard with me today. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we will see you next time. Have a good day, 4th grade.